I had always believed that keeping work and personal life separate was the key to balance, the only way to stay sane in a world that never stopped demanding more of us. Maybe that's why I never entertained the idea of forming close friendships at work, let alone letting emotions creep into the professional walls I had built around myself. But life has a strange way of making us question the things we are most certain about. I remember the very first time I saw Aisha. She had just joined our team, a new recruit, full of energy, confidence, and the kind of attitude that I usually disliked. She was overconfident, I thought, someone who loved to prove her point even when no one was asking, someone who carried herself like she knew better than everyone else. And then there was me, practical, reserved, always serious, a man who believed that work was only about results, about discipline, about getting things done without unnecessary drama. On that very first day, when she walked into the conference room with her notebook and her bright eyes, I silently told myself, this is going to be difficult. We were opposites in so many ways, and yet, as the days went by, I realized we also had one thing in common. We were both good at what we did. Aisha was creative, always bursting with ideas, sometimes too many, sometimes unrealistic, but they came from a place of genuine passion. I, on the other hand, believed in structure, logic, deadlines, and focus. If she was fire, I was water. If she painted with colors, I drew with lines. I didn't like the way she pushed her ideas, how she fought for them, like the whole world depended on it. And yet, there was something about her determination that I couldn't ignore. Everything changed the day our manager assigned us to the same project. Not just any project, but the company's most ambitious initiative of the year. Something everyone was watching closely, something that could make or break reputations. When I first heard the news, I almost protested. Working with her, I thought, how is this going to work? She must have felt the same way because I noticed the way she raised her eyebrows when she heard my name paired with hers. We didn't say anything out loud, but in that silent exchange, we both knew this was going to be a test. From the very beginning, our differences started showing. She came to the first meeting with a presentation filled with colors, graphics, and wild ideas, while I sat across from her with my neatly typed notes and timelines. We should create an experience that surprises people, something fresh, something bold, she said enthusiastically, her hands moving in the air as if she was painting her vision. I looked at her slides and then calmly replied, that's great, but how do we deliver all this within a week? We need something that works, not just something that looks good. Her smile faded for a second, but then she shot back. Sometimes you need to take risks to make something memorable. Playing safe doesn't always work. I sighed, and the meeting went on like a tennis match, her serving ideas, me blocking them with logic. We had 1 week to finish. Every single day, we stayed late in the office, sitting across from each other, sometimes arguing, sometimes working in silence, sometimes exchanging half smiles when a problem finally got solved. It was exhausting, but it was also strangely addictive. She had this energy that made even the dullest tasks seem alive. She would hum a song while making notes, crack a joke when I least expected it, or roll her eyes at me whenever I dismissed one of her ideas too quickly. And I found myself watching her more than I should have. When she leaned over her laptop, strands of her hair falling on her face, when she laughed at something on her phone, when she bit her lip trying to focus, these small moments began to distract me in ways I hadn't felt in years. One evening, we were both too tired to keep going. It was past midnight, the office almost empty. She got up suddenly and said, I'm making coffee. Do you want one? I nodded. She returned with 2 mugs and placed one in front of me. You know, she said, settling into the chair opposite me. You're not as scary as I thought. I raised my eyebrows. Scary? She laughed, a soft laugh that echoed in the quiet room. Yeah, first time I met you, I thought Here's this serious guy who probably hates fun, but now I think you just hide it well. I smirked. And you're not as reckless as I thought. You actually do listen sometimes. She looked at me with mock surprise. Did you just give me a compliment? I took a sip of coffee and replied, don't get used to it. That night, we didn't just talk about the project. We talked about music, about books, about our families. She told me how she grew up in a small town, always dreaming of breaking free and doing something creative. I told her about how I had always been the responsible one, the one who never let emotions distract him from work. And somewhere in the middle of that conversation, I realized something had shifted. She wasn't just a colleague anymore. She wasn't just a girl with too many ideas. She was Aisha, and I was beginning to see her in a way I hadn't allowed myself to before. The days passed. The project reached its final stage, and against all odds, we pulled it off. The presentation was a success, the management was impressed, and the client loved it. I should have been happy, but when the announcement came that Aisha was being promoted for her outstanding creativity and leadership, I felt something unexpected bitterness. I clapped for her, congratulated her with a smile, but inside I felt like I had been left behind. She deserved it, of course she did. She had worked hard, she had shone brightly, and yet part of me couldn't shake the thought that I had lost something. After that, things were never quite the same. She moved on to bigger projects, leading her own teams, while I stayed where I was, focused on my role. We still saw each other, of course, sometimes in the hallway, sometimes in meetings, sometimes just in passing. She would smile, I would nod. The connection we had built during those long nights of work was still there, somewhere in the silence between us, but neither of us spoke about it. Maybe we both knew it wouldn't survive in the world we lived in. She had her path, I had mine. Even now, sitting at my desk, I sometimes catch myself watching her from a distance. She laughs with her new team. She presents with the same confidence that once irritated me. She carries herself like she belongs everywhere she goes. And I remain the quiet one, the practical one, the man who once thought he could separate work from emotions, only to learn that the heart doesn't follow rules. What we shared wasn't love in the traditional sense. It wasn't a romance with grand gestures or promises. It was something quieter, something unspoken, something that lived in the late night coffees, in the shared smiles, in the arguments that ended with laughter. I don't regret it, but I don't forget it either. Maybe our story was never meant to have a perfect ending. Maybe it was just meant to teach me that sometimes the most meaningful connections are the ones that don't last forever. And maybe, just maybe, in another life, if things were different, Aisha and I would have written a different story. But in this one, silence speaks louder than words, and I have learned to live with it.